Sammy Gyamfi begins. In the year 2012, the NDC government, in line with its vision for addressing housing deficit in the country, secured a loan of 200 million from Credit Suisse International for the construction of 5,000 affordable houses. So this is the fact of the matter. This is what Sammy Gyamfi says. That the NDC in 2012 secured 200 million for the construction of 5,000. So let's keep that in mind. 200 million for the construction of 5,000. Okay, let's move on. The terms of the loan agreement was approved by Parliament in 2013 in line with Article 181 of the 1992 Constitution. Parliament only approved the loan agreement and not the works agreement for the project. Okay, now this is getting controversial now. Sammy Gyamfi's statement says that Parliament approved the loan agreement. They did not approve the works. But we will see the parliamentary approval and then we will understand. But he says Parliament approved the loan. They did not approve the work. So Parliament approved 200 million. They did not approve the details of what the 200 million was to be used for. Okay, let's move on. It is instructive to note that the Minister of Works and Housing at the time, the Honorable E.T Mensah, and that's why we have him in the studio today. His name appears everywhere in this Saglemi project. The Honorable E.T Mensah informed Parliament during the debate on the approval of the loan facility that the 5,000 housing units will not be built at a go, but rather over a period of time. That is in phases. Okay. So Sammy Gyamfi quotes E.T Mensah, says E.T Mensah told Parliament that we're not going to build all the 5,000 at a time. We will assume that it's for the same 200 million. We'll assume that the 5,000 is for 200 million, but he's saying that E.T Mensah told the House that he's not going to build all the 5,000 at the same time. Guess what? E.T Mensah is here. He's in the studio. He'll tell us what he told Parliament. Anyway, let's move on. This is captured in black and white in the Parliamentary Hansard of 23rd October 2013. Sammy Gyamfi makes a clever reference, which we like. We like that because we like research. He says, whatever E.T Mensah said, don't take it from him. Go to the Parliamentary Hansard. It's right there. You can see it. Okay. Number 4, subsequent to the grant of parliamentary approval, the Ministry of Works and Housing under Honorable E.T Mensah again prepared and executed a works agreement with the contractors for the project. Contractor was OAS Limited. So E.T Mensah did some work, he put it together, and then he put together the documents with the contracted OAS. Okay, it is in the works agreement that the government decided to build the 5,000 units in 4 phases. Okay. The consultant for the project was AESL. Note that Parliament had already approved the loan agreement. Okay, this is also very interesting. That's what the NDC is saying through Sammy Gyamfi. Now, this is interesting because he says that the agreement was for 5,000 houses. E.T Mensah and the contractors decided that they would do it in 4 phases, and that the consultant for the project was a government consultant, and that Parliament had approved the agreement. So we will assume that 5,000 houses for 200 million. This is the NDC statement. 5,000 houses for 200 million. Okay, let's move on. And therefore, the works agreement, which was an issue of implementation by the ministry, was not required to be approved by Parliament. Okay, great. So Sammy Gyamfi is building a point that 200 million for 5,000 houses. A works agreement was agreed between E.T Mensah and the consultants. That works agreement need not go to Parliament. It need not. I'm not sure what is the difference between a works agreement and produce 5,000 houses, because the obligation which you will see of the government was that Parliament gave to the government was, we are going to approve 200 million for you. You are going to build us 5,000 houses. Yes, you can decide to do that in phases, but that should not change the figure unless Parliament is part of the change. I think we can understand that. We have approved 200 million for you. You build 5,000 houses. You can do it however you want. Many phases, other phases, 3 phases, 10 phases, 4 phases. But you have 200 million to build 5,000. Okay, that doesn't come clear here from Sammy Gyamfi's statement at this stage. He says that the works agreement was not an issue of implementation by the ministry, and it did not require Parliament's approval, which will be deciding to do it in phases. I think that's what he's saying. If you decide to do it in phases, you don't need to go back to Parliament. Somehow we can agree with that. Okay, let's move on. Under the works agreement, government was supposed to provide a service plot of land with roads, water, electricity, drains, sewage systems, and other ancillary facilities for the smooth takeoff of the project. Okay. The cost of which had not been factored into the amount of $200 million approved by Parliament for the project, since the government did not have any funds to fall onto to discharge these responsibilities. Voila! Here is the filling of the lacuna. Let's start. Very interesting. He says, under the agreement, the government was supposed to provide service plot, which makes a lot of sense. Service plot of land with roads. Government is supposed to provide roads, water, electricity, drains, sewage system, and other ancillary facilities for the smooth takeoff of the project. However, the cost of these things had not been factored into the amount of $200 million. So when Parliament approved $200 million, Sammy Gyamfi wants us to believe that the $200 million was excluding the ancillary facilities that needed the project to work. That is roads, sewage system, etc., service plot, generally a service plot. A plot that has water connection, has electricity connection, that all of that was not part of the 200 million. Government was supposed to provide that. He says also that government did not have money to fall on to make these commitments. He says, let me take it from here. It says the cost of which had not been factored into the amount of 200 million approved by Parliament for the project, since the government did not have any funds to fall onto to discharge these responsibilities. He said the government didn't have any funds to fall onto to discharge the responsibilities. Therefore, the decision was taken by the ministry to use part of the approved amount of the project, 200 million, for all the necessary ancillary works to pave way for the construction of the housing units and to make the project site a commercially viable and habitable community. There we go. So the Attorney General is prosecuting that 200 million was approved for the entire project. The NDC says 200 million was approved for the project itself. That 200 million did not include all the ancillary things that government as a partner to the project had to do. The project is being done, the loan is being taken, project is being done by a contractor, government is his partner. Government provide me the land, I'll build the houses. Sammy Gyamfi says to provide the land in a service plot, it excluded 200 million. Government didn't have money to do all of those ancillary works, sewage and all that. So government had to take from the 200 million for that purpose. Okay, so we are getting somewhere. It says, this is what informed the decision by the ministry to do the project in phases, as the Honorable E.T Mensah had already intimated to Parliament. Clearly, the 5,000 houses could not be built at a go. Yes, that's true. Also, the initial drawings presented to the Ministry of Works and Housing by the developer was based on a Brazilian building code, and it wasn't fit for the Ghana setting. Yes, so you have seen it. The original drawings was from Brazil. It was somehow not fit for the Ghana setting. All the Ghanaians around the table, including E.T Mensah, who is here in the studio tonight, found out after Parliament had done the approval that the original drawings you had brought was not fit for Ghanaian setting. They all found out later. 275 members of Parliament, the parliamentary committee, they considered a loan for 200 million, a loan for a housing project. They didn't ask for the drawings, or they asked for it, they saw it, they didn't notice that it was Brazilian setting. Sammy Gyamfi doesn't tell us how we came to that realization, because maybe he should have added how we came to that realization, that in the course of a meeting, one very clever consultant said, hey, wait a minute, this is fit for Brazil, it's not fit for Ghana. He didn't tell us all of that. Now, this is where we are. Okay, so let's summarize what Sammy Gyamfi is saying. So he's saying that 5,000 units approved for 200 million. Government found out that they didn't have money to do the ancillary work, the plot, sewage system, etc., etc. So they took money from within the 200. That means that 200 will no longer be for 5,000. Maybe at that stage, Parliament should come in. At the stage where you realize that the 200 million Parliament approved will be insufficient for the 5,000 because you have to borrow from the 200 to do something. Maybe, I'm not a judge, I don't know, but maybe for the sacrosanctness of Article 1812, you may have to go back to Parliament and tell them that, Mr. Speaker, we have found out that we are unable to do this, so we are asking Parliament to approve another 30 million for the Saglemi project. That would have brought you 230 million. If, for instance, you value that you needed 30 million to complete the project, maybe that's what should have happened. That's what should have happened. I'm guessing, I don't know. When we open the phone lines, our people are here, you can start sending the text messages to them and they will talk about it. So that's Sammy Gyamfi's first point. His second point is that whilst we approve 5,000 units of houses, we go through a works agreement, which is done by the minister with the contractor. At E.T Mensah's stage, the works agreement was in 4 phases, to deliver the building in 4 phases. At Collins Dowda's stage, he brought it down to 3 phases. That has nothing to do with changing the 5,000. Then he concludes by saying that the payments that were made, certificates were issued by AESL and others. It's the Ministry of Finance that paid. It's not Collins Dowda that paid. So why are you charging Collins Dowda? That's the point Sammy Gyamfi is making. And he's also saying that if you are charging people for this matter, then you should charge Atachian as well. Because he also did some amendments to the works, which he didn't take to Parliament, out of which 5.6 million was paid by Atachian's Ministry of Finance. That's Sammy Gyamfi's story. So what did Parliament approve? We know 200 million for 5,000 houses. Is that what Parliament approved?
Yeah, 5,000 houses, because again, we brought in the off-taker. The off-taker was the home loans.
Ghana home loans.
Ghana home loans.
To off-take all 5,000?
Yeah, to off-take all 5,000.
And then hand it over to workers.
Yeah, to workers. We are then even registered workers.
Who were going to occupy
who were interested in it.
I see.
Yeah. They registered.
So Ghana Home Loans was supposed to off-take and pay the money to who?
They off-take and pay the money to Credit Suisse.
Oh, Credit Suisse directly to pay the loan as it were.
The loan.
Okay.
Because the loan was paid lodged in Bank of Ghana, and the interest of the creditor was who was going to pay.
Okay. Yeah.
STS. Ghana government, even gave sovereign guarantee.
Yeah.
And because of that brouhaha that happened, government wasn't interested, and the time was so short to even think about any sovereign guarantee. So we're lucky that home loans came in handy and decided to be part of the project.
Oh, I see. So this is interesting. So you were going to bill for Ghana Home Loans to pay the off-taker, and then if there was any more money.
Exactly.
Okay,
yes,
so
yes.
200 million was approved by Parliament.
Yeah.
How much were you going to spend on road and sewage and all
that? No,
the
details are there. I can let you have it later. Because
okay, but
they did all that. Sewage, when you go there, all the asphalt that you see over there.
It's all part of the 200 million.
200 million.
So if somebody tells us today that the 200 million excluded sewage and road and a site for the land, a service plot, we should not believe that person.
That person doesn't know what he's talking about. Because we have all the facts, and let me tell you, I'm surprised at what is happening, because when Prof died, and some of us were removed, and new persons went. When you are leaving as a minister, you are leaving an office as a minister, you prepare handing over notes, detailed handing over notes. And I have my copy, and the person that I handed over to was Collins Dowda. He knows it, and he should have a copy as well out there.
And in those handing over notes, we will see that the 200 million included all of the other ancillary things.
Yes, certainly. There was no way we wouldn't have stated all this. And not only the housing, all that we did out there, everything.
What about the drawings? We are being told that some drawings were given to your ministry. You people found out later that the drawings were not fit for purpose. They are from Brazil.
It's absolutely not true.
It's not true.
It's absolutely false, palpably false.
So what about what do you know about the Brazil drawings?
I was in Brazil drawings. I am not a technical person, so we set up a technical committee which worked on this.
So the document you took to Parliament, did it include drawings and all that?
No. You don't take drawings
to Parliament. Okay.
To Parliament.
How many phases were you going to complete this in?
5,000 houses, first phase.
One phase, build all the 5,000?
Yeah.
But we are being told that you were going to do it in 4 phases.
It is lie. It's a lie.
It's a lie?
I was not involved in any phases. We knew that we wanted 5,000 houses to be built for workers, and it was approved. Executive approval was given, and then Parliament approved it. So if anything at all, if I wanted to change anything, I'm not a kid. I will have to go through the same process.
Back to Parliament.
Somebody, gave the executive approval. So if it is happening, there was somebody there, so I would have gone to that president who was there and asked for through the
get another executive approval and then go back to Parliament.
Exactly. You cannot go to Parliament and have something approved and then you come home and decide to do what you like. So when you were going through those things, I was just like, what is this? Can people lie this way?
That's serious. Okay, let me hold it there. And we wanted E.T Mensah to talk also about the MMDCs. Maybe we have to do that another time. But let me come to you.